National Party, whether the answer that she gave to that statement, to that question, put to her by Stephen Lassiani, whether that was an honest answer. I think that the honesty, the integrity of our politicians is on the line. And you can tell me whether you think that Mrs. Maxine Henry Wilson, by that performance this morning, relieved one iota of the pressure, or whether she added to it. Okay? Honesty is as honesty does. Integrity is as integrity does. And it would be one thing for her to come here and say that, well, you know, I said something foolish. I didn't really mean that. I expressed myself in an unfortunate way. Whatever. She hasn't done that. She hasn't done that. She's putting the blame on whoever it is that she claims picked out that statement. The blame is on media, or on some medium. Right? It is like when they mess up and they blame talk show hosts. They blame everybody but themselves. Right? Talk show hosts are the songwriters, you know, the people who hold up the mirror for Caliban to see his hideous face in it. And when he sees it, it makes him angry. The rage of Caliban seeing his own face in the glass. That is what is happening with them. Anyway, I have another. Yesterday morning on the Breakfast Club, there was a discussion about crime. Full discussion about crime. And one of the participants was a former Minister of National Security, former Ambassador, Mr. Dudley Thompson. And he came with a suggestion that is far from novel. Suggestion that was made some time ago by Mr. Howard Hamilton. But in giving this far from novel suggestion, he spoke to the need for new thinking, new ideas. No angels died at Green Bay.
I think that you need new thinking. What is there new? I mean, you have Intrepid, you have, now and again, you have another name and another section. They're doing all right in their little places, but it's like trying to patch a quilt by looking at the little edges here and there. We are putting out bushfires. You hear somebody important get killed and everybody get up in arms about that. You hear something else happen in Montego Bay, everybody get up in arms about it. And you go back to sleep. There is no new thinking. This thing has reached epidemic proportions, and it's the most important thing that this government has to think about. Crime. Now, it's not just a question of the people, that is, the criminals versus the police. That's not the only factor we have to think about. The long term and the short terms have got to be looked at the same time. What I think we have to do is bring in some new thinking, and the new thinking I'm thinking about is what is the cause of crime here, aside from the poverty and the lack of education and this and that and the other. What is happening is that people are disrespecting authority. They don't diss it. Authority don't mean anything. They don't respect the law because you see some people get persecuted and some don't. Some people throw banana skin and thing on the road. There's no zero tolerance in this country. They disrespect authority. Now, I know that the beginning of authority is in the home. You begin it by teaching the people to respect their parents. But how are you going to say that the beginning of authority is in the home to people who don't have homes? You got to begin right down there.
Live on the street.
Yes, well, that's where they are. It's going to start from the street, and the same old story is going to come about. What we have to do is to direct the whole nation in a different direction with regards to this epidemic.
But authority has to earn the respect too, Dudley.
Well, somebody has to start, and we have to give the government
has to start with authority.
It has to start with authority. It's got to start there and meaningful. I don't mean just pious statements and pie in the sky sort of thing. What I think you need in this country, you need something directing, like, if you don't want to call it compulsory military service for all people between 16 and 40. If you don't want to bring in a drastic new idea, call it the land army. You think about the women in this country, and nobody's thinking about them at all, except as sufferers. If the women in this country form the land army, And when I speak about it, I mean enlisting all these people just sitting down on the sidewalks as men looking for trouble, or women having babies. Put them in the army where you will learn discipline.
You know, they were going to pay for it.
How you pay for that?
Pay for it.
I see, we're paying for it now in blood and sweat and lack of respect to
You
your
don't mean
country.
permanently in the army, though?
No.
You mean
A contract. Let's say a contract of 4 years. The first 2 years, strict military discipline.
Yes.
Because a man under discipline is not thinking of crime. The last 2 years, he should be given working out a piece of land. Every man or woman who's added 2 years military discipline has gotten 3 or 4 or 5 acres of land to develop himself. That is his bonus. You're not beginning to make a citizen. But people are thinking of interest in the country, but you need discipline. And unless you can have those people being disciplined, you're not thinking about the vast majority of the country. You're talking about police and thieves, Indians and robbers. That's not going to solve the problem.
The interesting thing about that is that Mr. Thompson there has a number of valuable insights, you know. There is need for new thinking. There is need for discipline. There is need for authority to be respected. But he entirely ignores what was being suggested to him, is that there is even greater need for an authority that is deserving of respect. How are people going to respect an authority that is contemptible because it is corrupt, because it is gangster-like? What is there that Mr. Thompson has said there about the need for authority to be respected that could not be said by the worst gang leader, the worst community don in one of the garrison constituencies? He must not be dissed. What Mr. Thompson is complaining about is that people are dissing authority. Right? Well, that is precisely what Jim Brown would have said. Somebody dissed him and ended up in a crocker's back. Right? And Mr. Thompson wants to put people into the army. Put all these young, idle people into the army. Some 15% of the population of Jamaica, by the reckoning of Statin, are unemployed. Work it out for yourself. How many thousand people that is. Put them all into the army. And then after 4 years, you give them 4 or 5 acres of land. Where that land is going to come from? What is happening, what is being exhibited here is intellectual bankruptcy. A recognition of some useful truth, important truth. But he can't follow it up to any conclusion. And when it is pointed out to him that the major problem is that authority has not earned the respect of the people, and the people in consequence do not respect him, what he wants is some coercive mechanism to compel people to respect an authority that they don't see as deserving their respect. And that is as far as he can go. Right? But there were people there who recognized the need for something rather more than that. To begin with, Beverly Manley. And you know, she cannot be too highly commended for the lead that she's giving here. Listen to her.
Only let me just say something.
Yeah.
I really think we're skirting around the issues. One of the things that Roberta mentioned was the connection between crime and politics.
Yeah.
He says the connections are different now, but the connections continue. And going back to Winnie's point about you would have to first of all change authority. I mean, what we have to do is look at the leadership in this country. I mean, across the political parties, recognize how carefully we have laid the foundations. We have laid the foundations for what is happening today until you can get critical political leaders admitting to that and willing to change no matter what the cost. And establishing a code of conduct. You may have to come out of office. Establishing a code of conduct. And it is not happening.
I floated that idea the other night at a meeting with political leaders.
And you were shouted down.
And I was shouted down.
Tony Abrams floated that idea the other night at a meeting with political leaders, and he was shouted down. Why was he shouted down? Because what we have, as I was saying yesterday on this program, what we are calling political leaders are really political gangsters. political dons. If these were men who had the interests of this country and its people at heart, how could they shout that down? They have, as Beverly says, it is the political leadership of this country that has created is a wrong word, because it is not a creative process. It is the very opposite of a creative process. Things fall apart. What we are calling crime, I have told you over and over on this program, what we are calling crime is really symptomatic of the disintegration of the social fabric of what was at some point a Jamaican society. That is what we are looking at. And this is a function of the criminality of leadership. That fight for scarce benefits and political spoils carried on by hostile tribes that seem to be perpetually at war, that is what has created what is now being called an epidemic of crime. And it is very interesting that the methods that appeal to us are the methods of gangland. That business of the police going around shooting people and bashing people over the heads and locking up people without... All of this is lawlessness. That man who was locked up to be questioned about the death of Madame Rosalia, and after locking him up for 2 days and questioning him all this they wanted, they found that they had no evidence on which to have held him in the lockup in the first place. This is a gangland methodology. This is not law and order. There is a complaint. 2 soldiers are supposed to have gone into a man's house in Grants Bend, saw a Nintendo set in the house, told the man that he didn't look like somebody who should own a Nintendo set, and took it away. And when he protested, put a gun in his belly. Right? 2 soldiers have stolen this man's Nintendo set. And I heard Mr. Delroy Chuck being interviewed this morning on radio saying that this was not uncommon. They go in and take away people's television set and things. This is gangsterism masquerading as law enforcement. That's what it is. Gangsterism masquerading as law enforcement. That is the problem. Anyway, these serious matters will upset our brains and send us before time to the Bellevue Hospital. So I have a little humorous relief here. It's not humorous, not really humorous. It's nasty. It's nasty. But it leaves one to wonder what is going on in the PNP. Now, I know that there is a vice presidential campaign on. Miss Portia Simpson, as I understand it, is more tolerated in the Pattison administration. God alone knows what she's doing in it. My advice to her years ago would have been to resign, sit on the backbenches, and bide your time. But that is not what she has chosen to do. She's in the Pattison administration. And I gather that now that the vice presidential race is on, she is more or less sure of her vice presidency. Roger Clark seems to have it wrapped up. I gather Dr. Blythe is in a strong position. Peter Phillips wants to hone in. And my understanding is that Portia Simpson is putting all her resources behind Easton Douglas in order to keep out Peter Phillips. That's my understanding. It is what I hear on the grapevine. Anyway, the quintessential deacon seems to have a little streak of something there. Judge for yourself. Listen to this.
But what I'm interested in is that it looks as if it's Cable and Wireless London who have jumped into the act with the government to work out this new partnership and the change of the license. And as far as the local Cable and Wireless people are concerned, or Mr. Porsche, I don't think he's Mr. Errol Miller, excuse me. I don't think that it doesn't appear that he's up front on this one at all.
Mr. Porsche, what a piece of sliminess. Huh? Mr. Porsche, what is that telling us? What is going on? We take a break, we come back in a moment. Bounty Killa, Bounty Killa. And the words, apparently, of the song were written by Dave Kelly, according to what I see published here in the Observer. The Radio Jamaica has banned it on the grounds, as I understand it, that it is what? The words of the gunman or something of the kind. But I think that these words are well worth thinking about. This is the chorus of the song. Look into my eyes. Tell me what you see. Can you feel my pain? Am I your enemy? Give us a better way. Things are really bad. The only friend I know is this gun I have. Listen to my voice. This is not a threat. Now you see the mine. Now you see the 9. Are you worried? Yes? You've been talking about you want the war to cease. But when you show us hope, we will show you peace. And then here is one of the verses. Look into my mind. Can you see the wealth? Can you tell that I want to help myself? But if it happens that I stick you for your ring, don't be mad at me. It's a survival thing. Look into my heart. I can feel your fear. Take another look. Can you hold my stare? Why are you afraid of my hungry face? Or is it this thing bulging in my waist? And on it goes. Look into my life. Can you see my kids? Let me ask you this. Do you know what hungry is? Well, in this part of town, survival is my will. For you to stay alive, you've got to rob and kill. Look into my house. Would you live in there? you care. Well, I had made up my mind to end up in the morgue. Right now, I'd rather die, 'cause man, I live like dog. I don't think that we deal with the kind of issues raised in a poem like that by banning it and ignoring it. Maybe we ban it because it makes us uncomfortable, as it should. Okay, hello?
Hello?
Yes. Oh, you are the author of this song that the Radio Jamaica has banned.
Yes, I'm guilty of that.
Well, you wrote the song or just the lyrics?
Everything.
Well, I don't know. I haven't heard the song, but I see the lyrics
Okay.
in the papers, and I wish to congratulate you on them. I think that they are very well done.
Thank you.
I think it is a pity that that rather than listen to them and respond to them, we are trying to put them out of our hearing.
That's true. That's so true.
You have had songs banned before?
Yes, Anytime was banned earlier up in the year.
Yes.
Because, and the reason they give for that was one word.
Uh-huh.
The whole message of the song was lost because of one word.
What is the word?
9.
9.
9.
Oh, the 9.
9.
9 millimeter.
Right.
I'll follow you. Some people would accuse you of glorifying gunmanship.
No, I don't do that. Society influenced these songs, and people need to realize that these songs are a mirror of society, and we
Yes.
can't sweep it under the rug and pretend that it's not there. It is there, and these songs are intended to sensitize society towards a sector of the nation.
You ever heard, sir, of the rage of Caliban seeing his own face in the glass?
I can identify what you're saying.
The rage of Caliban seeing his own face in the glass.
Yes.
If you portray the face of Caliban with accuracy, you might make Caliban angry.
Yeah, but we could
Thought of that?
I know what you're saying, but you see, things we can look at this in a whole different light, and hopefully, they can do some serious soul searching and see what we as a society can do to help, because the government alone can't do everything. If we can offer a job to somebody from an inner city, so that's one less gunman or one less potential gunman, that helps. He has a family and stuff like that. People stereotype people, because of the community they come from and they can't get work. It's easier to get a gun than it is to get a job right now.
It's easier to get a gun
And it's to get
than it is to get a job.
Yes, and that's reality.
You're serious about it?
I'm serious, and a large cross-section of society don't know, they don't have a clue about this. And this is what this song is speaking to them. It's not speaking to who are living this. That's why I don't want it banned, because this is speaking to the people who don't know that they're a section of society who have never been in a supermarket, because supermarket don't sell half a bread and quarter pound of starfish and big jelly oil.
Yes.
You have people who have never been to supermarket, the mother can go shop.
Yes.
Because that's what their salary or what them can hustle, can afford.
Those are the ones that have salaries.
You understand me? And this was intended to sensitize our society to the plight of these people, so we can see what we can do. If we can make a youth wash the car and give him a $500 send off to grab your chain, then we can do it. If we can give a guy a job from Seaview, so him don't follow him friend go rob the jewelry store, then we can do it. This is what this was intended to let us search our soul and see if we can have more fellowship and brother.
I think we're going to need a hell of a lot more than that,
It's a start.
We're going to need a lot more than that to make any dent upon the problem. But I was saying earlier on that all of this stems from the criminality of our politics. Politics sets the example of criminality in this country.
This has been a generation, this has been cultivated from a long time. I think this goes further than politics. This is a class issue also, where you know, you have a section of society who believes that they are lesser than another cross-section of society, and people feel that they are better than other people. And it's not nice to feel that people are better than you, or make to believe that you are less than another man. And like I was telling the guy from the paper, that when your basic means of survival has been threatened, that's going to lead to desperation, and that is what's been happening. So I don't know why people are so surprised about violence and the upsurge of crime and all of that, because people that living in Jamaica, they're surviving. A lot of people.
Yes, indeed, and some of them not surviving.
Exactly. You know, so I don't want them to ban it, and we're in dialogue now. We're trying to sort out something and see how we can work this, so, you know, people can hear it and see what they can do to help. You know, the more fortunate.
But if one radio station bans it, what does that do?
But that will hurt, because they have their listenership. They have their listeners that won't hear it, possibly.
But isn't your major outlet in the dance halls?
Right, but people who go to the dance hall are people who generally live this way. That's not who I want to hear this, really.
I follow you.
I want people who go to soca sessions and go to banquets and balls and go fishing on their yachts with their friends to hear this. People who write the paychecks, who don't start to think that if this man takes 2 bus 5 days a week to work, how does he eat when I'm paying him this?
We have to make a clear distinction between economics and charity. Right?
Yes.
Economics is not about charity.
I know that.
You can't sustain a business on the basis of, you know, charitable notions about making the man have a better life. The man has to produce in order to be able to earn.
But he has to be given the
Business can't pay him what he doesn't earn.
He has to be given the opportunity to produce.
But of course. And here is where your problem is.
Exactly. And that's why some of them try to look, because we go along with our business, our casual life, and we don't stop to look at what is really.
It is part of the reality too, you see, that there is too little investment in this country, too little creation of new businesses, because Jamaica has become a place where not many people who have some other option would want to put their investment.
You can't blame them, too.
Right? Can't blame them. All right, so good luck to you. All right?
Yeah, man.
Thank